Hey, good evening, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another edition of Wednesday Night Live with me, Mike Avery. Here in my home office, the home studio. No place real fun tonight, although, I love what I'm doing. I can't complain about it too much. Randy, good evening. How are you? Craig, my friend. Cliff, always a pleasure. Hello, Sean. How are you? Haven't talked to you in a couple weeks. At least not that I remember. Oh, so how was your day since we last talked this morning? Steven. Jim checking in from Tennessee. Ed Bolanowski. Deer season will be here before you know it. Man, oh man, I can't get that excited about deer season. Hello, Brent. How you doing, buddy? Bernie, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. I know a lot of people are starting to get pumped about deer season. Hey, Johnny, how you doing, buddy? I can't say I'm real pumped about it. But I don't get really excited about deer hunting in general. I mean, I am excited for one more season with the youth hunt with my grandson Carter. And then I am going down to Ohio to hunt with Bill Piles. And oh, I know what you're saying, Johnny. And then I'll do some hunting here in Michigan as well. Ryan checking in from Mayo. Johnny says his day turned out great because I know why, because he got that new. Hey, Steve, how you doing, buddy? Michelle, thanks for joining us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. Good evening, Tony. How you doing, buddy? Good job on the fish the other day, too. If you can stay out of the weeds out there right now, you're probably going to catch fish, but you're going to earn those fish. That's the XSS. XSS is yours. Hey, there you go, Adam. He just likes sitting in the woods, shooting a deer as a bonus. Amen to that. Bernie says a lot of nice deer hanging out behind his house. Maybe that's where I should hunt, Bernie. I don't think you're in town, are you? So what is on my list of things to talk about today? Oh, I knew what it was, Ed. He sent me a picture of it earlier. I knew exactly what it was. And it looks like a nice one. Good evening, Mike. You've been waging war with the rodent critters at your place too, huh? I tell you, those bulls, oh, those are just disgusting little... So I have been out fishing, although my fishing is starting to slow down. And I think as much as anything, it's because my areas that I like to fish are getting real weeded up. Hey, Dennis, to the point where it's real hard to even get a bait in the water without picking up a weed as you're putting out a bait. I mean, it's tough. Corey says he can get me a mature doe this year. Might take you up on it. Hello, Dan. How are you this evening? I can actually get more excited about football season than I can deer season. College football season. I see your Detroit Lions thing there. 2 weeks in a row, Linda. We're on a roll. Don't let it drop off. 2 weeks in a row. I do want to so I've been hampered by some things. The weather, every time I try to fish has been just crazy. The wind has been blowing. It stormed the night before. And when you're trying to catch fish out of shallow water, if you get a good lightning and thunderstorm coming through a few hours earlier, I think it squirrels those fish up, and I think it makes it hard. And then you combine the weeds, and then something I've never done ever before in my Great Lakes fishing history, I actually trolled into a commercial net on Saturday. And it wasn't the fisherman's fault, commercial fisherman. He had it clearly marked. But I wasn't expecting to see it there. It wasn't there 2 days ago, or it wasn't there just before the last time I was out. So I wasn't looking for it. I had my boat on autopilot. The Angler Quest Auto was running autopilot. Hey, Lance, how you doing, buddy? I'll see you Saturday. Lance, I'm just telling the story about how I trolled into a commercial net on Saturday, and you might be able to relate to this. So I got a crew of people who are really, really nice people, but they're not experienced on the big water. As I say, I wasn't looking for a net right there because there had been no nets there before. So I've got the boat on autopilot. I'm at the back of the Angler Quest setting lines, and every once in a while I look over my shoulder to make sure there's no boats ahead of me. But I'm not looking for markers because there weren't supposed to be any there. Setting lines, and I look over to the left, and midship of the broadside with the Angler Quest, there's a buoy, there's a marker. I'm like, oh, that's not good. And then I look up, and there's a whole line of them, and it ends in a big black a black commercial fishing net. Turns out my crew had seen those markers. They'd seen the buoys, but not being experienced, they didn't know what it meant, so they didn't see anything, didn't say anything till I was right in them. Now, how I trolled into a commercial net and only lost one bait, I don't know. Didn't lose any boards, didn't lose any offshore boards, didn't get the prop tangled up in there. I lost one flicker minnow, so I consider myself pretty good. Yeah, Lance said he saw it the other night. Hello, Elliot, how are you? There's Elliot right there. Brent, it's going well. How are you, my friend? Ed says he doesn't think walleye like lightning and thunder no matter how deep they are. I can tell you for sure, up in that skinny water, a good lightning storm will squirrel them up. So lightning, wind, and weeds have been my nemesis lately. Look over to the left, starboard. As I'm looking forward, left is port, right is starboard. Hello, Erica. How are you? Nice to have you along with us. Corey says it has a marked on your navionics. You wouldn't have had this one marked on your navionics, Corey, because it wasn't there. It just showed up. Good evening, Jerry. Nice to have you along with us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. Elliot says it's great to be alive. Brent's building a new fishing rod. Excellent. Brent's also a custom bait painter. Hello, Jason. How are you? My fellow Trinity brother. Nice to have you along with us. Steve Rivet's also here tonight, another Trinity guy. Can't have enough Trinity guys on here. So anyway, my fishing has actually been slowing down, and I have a few more trips yet. Plus, I have the Angler Quest tournament on Saturday. That to me is a fun event. It's a PR event. I have to MC the weigh-in. I'm not taking the tournament seriously. Not at all. I don't take my fishing that seriously in general. We go out there to have fun. Speaking of fun, even though the fishing has been a little bit hard, a little bit tough for me, I have managed to get some really nice fish in the boat. I mean, Lance says, yep. He said, nope, that net has never been in that spot. He's been fishing around there for 30 plus years. Yeah. So I agree with you, Lance. You weren't going to see that net on your navionics. Nope. Wasn't going to show up. And it sure did surprise me, I'll tell you that. Tommy, good evening. How are you, buddy? Elliot's planting food plots, getting ready for the season before the Kings run. Quality trumps quantity. And that was the case, Linda. I had people who were not experienced anglers, which is fun, right? I love getting people out there to fish who haven't fished before. And then to get them into big fish. We had a 26-inch fish one day with a lady who had a big smile on her face that it would just, you couldn't get this grin off her face. Then I had a 10-year-old boy Monday, caught a 24-inch fish, big shoulders on it, real nice, beautiful fish. And it was so much fun fishing with him. He was so inquisitive. He asked so many good questions. Just a lot of fun. If I didn't say good evening, Carl, I'll say it now. Tommy's doing some projects in the garage. All is well for me. Inland lakes are getting crushed by pike eating everything. Miss the perch fish Fridays. I do think, I don't know. Good evening, Bruce. Sometimes I take the resource for granted because I'm out there all the time. Have you noticed there are some billboards along the highways now that say the most fun you've never had? The most fun you've never had. And they're talking about charter fishing. They're billboards for the Michigan Charter Boat Association, a group of which I am a member. Rob says, hey, Mike, are you going to run your Angler Quest this year until first ice and get some of those oinkers? Nope. Probably not. I'll probably have it out of the water way before then. Quality fish equals quality time for your fishing guests. Awesome. Scott's at the skate park with his grandson. That sounds like a good evening. Anytime you can spend time with your grandkids, it's a good evening. We had dinner with my granddaughter Addison last night, and she's just a wonderful kid, just a great kid. I'm fishing with Trent, one of my grandsons, Saturday. Playing golf with Carter tomorrow. Had dinner with Joey a couple of weeks ago. Just we're really blessed with great grandkids. Kevin, good evening. How are you, buddy? When should we expect to see the new hunting regulations come out? I thought they'd already been decided. I can tell you one thing you won't see. People ask me this all the time. When are they going to lift the baiting and feeding ban for whitetails in the Lower Peninsula? Never. I shouldn't say never, but it's not going to happen. Thank you, Tyler. Appreciate that. Oh, also, did you hear about the story? And I'm working on this. A lady near Ishpeming was walking her dog in the morning, and they got attacked by probably a wolf. It sounds like a very, very intense, very scary situation. I'm trying to get this woman on the radio show. She is hesitant because she feels like the DNR isn't taking her seriously, and she's hesitant to put herself out there publicly with her name and everything else and get some criticism. So I'm talking with a friend of hers, and I assured that friend, look, I'm not going to show her any disrespect. I will treat her situation with the seriousness that it deserves. I mean, her dog got attacked, and she got attacked trying to defend the dog. Well, I say that, Lisa. Yes, they say it was a wolf because the DNR is originally saying it was a coyote. Kirk is heading down to Erie Saturday. Try for some perch, see what happens. Good luck to you, Kirk. Thank you, Cody. I appreciate that. Right back at you. An extremely scary situation. Extremely scary situation. You know, it's interesting. Downstate here where I live, people carry handguns to protect themselves from human predators. In the UP, if you choose, and you're not in the towns, if you choose to carry a handgun, it's to protect yourself. Probably not as much from the human predators as the critter predators. Because I tell you, wolves in the UP are not afraid of man like wolves in Ontario are. Have you been hearing any cicadas buzz? I personally have not yet, but they're buzzing all over the place. I'm getting reports from all over the state. What does that mean? And what is a cicada? My dad used to call them tree locusts. I've heard other people call them tree frogs, but they're a pretty good sized bug, and they're kind of hideous or kind of cool, depending on how you look at it. And they sit up in the trees and they buzz. Elmer, how are things in Petoskey? Beautiful part of the state. And they start to buzz about this time of year. Well, the old saying, the old folklore was, Linda says none in Southeast Michigan buzzing yet. The old folklore was 6 weeks from the time you hear the first cicada buzz until the first frost. That's not true. I can't give you an example, Don. That's not true. Because when my dad was alive, and I kept track of this for many years, and it's not 6 weeks. It's not even 8 weeks. It's probably closer to 10 weeks. But I guess the question is there a correlation between when the cicadas buzz and when we get our first frost? Meaning, if the cicadas buzz early, will our first frost be early, and vice versa? I don't know the answer to that, but I suspect there is some kind of a correlation or a cycle, because most things in Mother Nature have a cycle. Most things are tied in. They're related. Kirk says nothing in St. Clair County yet. Hey, Kirk, speaking of St. Clair County, this leads me into the rundown for this week. On this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, Jim Felgenauer talks about the sturgeon fishing season on the St. Clair River. It's open right now. Tracy said on the golf course this morning, they were landing on your arm. Or Bernie says that. Wow. None in Oakland County. You did miss the good stuff, Jeff. You've already missed all of the good stuff. So a lot of you haven't, and I haven't yet either. UP Predator Facebook page has a wolf story. 65-pound dog doesn't. I hear you, Lisa. I hear you completely. In fact, I'm getting the information the same place the UP Predator folks Facebook page are getting it. I just said coyote just to kind of hedge my bets. I believe obviously it was a wolf. I say coyote because that's what the DNR originally said. But I, of course, believe it's a wolf. And if I can get this lady on the show, and it'll be a great story, it will be about the fifth or sixth example that I've had on the radio show of people who have had their dogs attacked by wolves. Every time I hear about it, I reach out to those people and try to get them on the show, and oftentimes I'm successful. Oh, Jeff says people need to care for the sturgeon when they catch and release. You saw 2 dead ones off Algonac this year so far. Yeah, that's a shame. I thank you, Jeff, for bringing that up. Yeah, if you're going to fish for sturgeon and you're probably going to release them, please be careful because these fish are old. They're precious. Well, how do you define okay, Don? Yes, the dog I think is going to live and she's okay, but man, what a terrifying situation. Interesting story. Some of the people commenting are pretty rich, claiming it's a hybrid. Kevin, you know my thoughts on this. Do not, my friends, fall in to the myth of a coy wolf. Please don't use the term. Please don't talk about it. Please. I know PBS had a series or a special a few years ago on the coy wolves. I've talked to wildlife biologists who tell me there is no scientific designation for a coyote wolf hybrid, a crossbreed. There is no scientific definition. The problem with buying into a coy wolf theory is, and I think this is a big concern. I'm really concerned about this. If the public adopts the way of thought that wolves and coyotes are interbreeding, and the antis get a hold of that. Now, listen, I have no doubt that there is residual wolf DNA in coyotes, but I think it's from generations and generations ago. If we buy into the concept that wolves and coyotes are breeding and the antis get a hold of that, the first thing they will do is say, well, since wolves are protected, if coyotes have wolf DNA, wolf blood, then we shouldn't be hunting coyotes either. We need to stay away from that line of thinking. Linda says cicadas wait for the perfect temperature before making the journey to the surface. When the soil about 8 inches underground reaches 64, our super warm summer started things earlier than usual. So does that mean, Linda, in your professional opinion, that we will have an earlier frost? Kevin agrees with me. Yes, it is a trap. Indeed, is a trap. And I would like to think that you and I are too smart to fall into that trap. Kevin says some were claiming domestic dog and wolf cross as well. Kirk says utter BS. Coy wolf, you mean Bigfoot's best friend? Yes, Bigfoot's second cousin. Yep, it's a trap. It is a trap, but it's amazing how many well-meaning people fall into it. Okay, so Jim Felgenauer talks about sturgeon fishing on the St. Clair River, then Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News. Linda says, in my humble opinion, no reason to believe we will have an early frost. Jeff says cicadas at 60 miles an hour leave a mark on your forehead. You're lucky they don't crack your skull, big as those things are. I take it you're talking about a bike. Then Tom Campbell of Woods and Water News wraps up the opening hour. He talks about the big outdoor show coming up the first weekend after Labor Day. In our second hour, we're getting ready for bow season with Kevin Pritchard of Jay's Sporting Goods. Kevin is the archery manager for the Clare store of Jay's Sporting Goods. He talks about gear. He talks about broadheads. He talks about getting your gear ready. He talks about an $1,800, is it a Hoyt? It's a carbon bow. $1,800 with no sight, no rest, no nothing. Kevin also saw a native putting his 2 cents worth, basically saying he didn't think it was a wolf either. Hello, Dennis. How are you? Kevin, have I ever attended a trapping convention? I have not. Mike said he did take his bow into Jay's, learned a lot. These new bows are under a ton of pressure all the time. Yeah, in talking with Kevin, and I said, I need to bring my new 10-point in. He said, absolutely do it. Because just like you mentioned, Mike, these things are under so much pressure and so much torque. Linda says, I get cicada wasp along your driveway every year. None yet. I would love to see one of those. I've never seen one, but they're pretty big, aren't they? The cicada killing wasp. They got to be what? I mean, big. I'd love to see one. Never have. Scott, you're so full of crap. Scott Hand, let me officially say, my good friend, and I say this with all due respect, Scott Hand, the winner of the first Angler Quest Owners Tournament, you are full of crap. All due respect. And I know why you say that, because Saturday you want me to head up into that skinny water and get fouled up and waste a couple hours. I am too smart for you, you sly fox. Kevin got one coming up next month. I heard about that. Yeah. Kevin, I'll tell you what, there, aside from a few fishing trip obligations that I have, there ain't nothing happening out of the ordinary at the Avery house because my daughter's getting married in about 6 weeks. So there's no trapping conventions. There's none of that stuff. None of that's going to happen until after Labor Day weekend. Uncle Johnny, how you doing, buddy? Johnny, I was talking about our fishing trip Monday when Cam was with us, and what a great kid he is, how inquisitive he is, how he asked such great questions. Jeremy says, and I saw this earlier, a TV station, which is WLUC out of Marquette, will be interviewing the DNR. It's scheduled for tomorrow. Wolf attack or coyote? Victim says Wolf DNR says they are reporting as a coyote. What's the protocol for this? Jeremy, this is exactly the reason why this lady is reluctant to join me on the radio show, because she feels like the DNR is saying she doesn't know what she's talking about. Now, she's a UP resident, and she says, look, at this critter was bigger than her 66-pound dog. She's saying it's a wolf. And that's what I said. The DNR originally, maybe even still saying that it's a coyote. And that's why she just doesn't want, look at, she's been through enough. Her dog has been through a lot. She's been through a lot. And I feel like she doesn't want to fight this battle in the media. And I don't blame her. Hello, James. Hello, Barry. Yep, Kevin. Good evening, Eric. How are you? Thanks for joining me on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. By the way, my name is Mike Avery. This is something I do every Wednesday night at 7:00. Now, this time of year, the numbers are down a little bit, but it's nice. It's still daylight. I mean, there are a lot of things that people could be doing. We get a lot of people who watch these after the fact, and I get it completely. You get to wintertime, it's cold, it's dark at 7:00, and our numbers go up. Speaking of numbers, I just found out something, and this was not expected. I kind of accidentally ran across this number. I use a podcasting platform called Libsyn, which is stands for Liberated Syndication. Means it's easy. Hey, Joe, how are you? And they keep track of the numbers. The podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show has now been downloaded, a verified and a certified more than 1 million times. More than 1 million downloads of the podcast version of the radio show. Lauren says, salmon tournament Frankfurt next weekend. Eventually one will be shot. Hello, Marion. Your new son-in-law, hunter fisherman, you're going to teach him. I'm working on him, Tony. No, they don't, Dennis. They admitted. Remember that one was in Lansing a few years ago? They admitted to that. Hello, Jerry. Scott Hand. Yeah. That's a big number, right, Linda? I mean, 1 million downloads is a big number. Thank you, Elmer. Appreciate that very much. Hey, Mike. Mike Sills, Michigan Outdoorsman. Scott Hand, who I'm bringing up his comment right here. Scott bought one of my angler quests, and he's making great use out of it. He fishes it all the time. He catches a ton of fish. He's got a grandson, Blake, who's just the coolest kid in the world. And Scott and Blake and two of their friends won the Angler Quest Owners Tournament last year on Saginaw Bay. We are having another this Saturday. The weather forecast actually, for once, looks pretty good. It looks like we're not going to get blown off the bay. Hey, Josh, how are you? So what I'm going to do is run my boat from my slip at the mouth of the river, Saginaw River, over to Linwood Beach Marina early in the morning, and I'll be there in time for the 7 o'clock captain's meeting. Fish, MC the event, and then run my boat back to the mouth of the river, and then go downstate and pick up my wife, Denise. So by the time I get home Saturday night, since I'm an old guy, I'm going to be ready to put my feet up, have a maker's mark, and relax. Thank you, Bernie. Appreciate that. Josh Mapes, the man, the myth, the legend, Overdrive Outdoors. Follow these guys. They do a really, really good job. James says, fingers, a local tournament in St. Joe this weekend, fingers crossed. Josh, I love the pictures you post. I'm trying to think, is it PixArt? What is the editing software you use to make those so cool? I feel like it's PixArt. But your photos are always very, very nice. What else is on my list? Let's see here. I didn't get through the radio show rundown. I got sidetracked. Kevin Pritchard of J Sporting Goods. Then Amy Trotter of MUCC joins me. I love Amy. I love Amy. I think she's doing a great job. She's a great talker. She's just a nice person. I love Amy. And I keep her around for the Ask Avery segment as well. Our Ask Avery segment this week becomes an Ask Amy segment. And in our third hour, one of the most interesting anglers you'll ever hear. One of the most interesting anglers I'll ever talk with. Mark Romanak of Fishing 411 talks about a new line of trolling rods that they have come out with. We talk about trolling. We talk about precision angling. Here's a little unknown story. Here's a behind the scenes, right? The way that Mark got into outdoor television was originally he was a pro staffer for me on the Outdoor Magazine TV show. And he was obviously very good at it. Good communicator, good with the camera. And so for many years, he was a pro staffer for me on the TV show. There was a point probably 15 to 20 years ago at this point, maybe closer to 20, when I knew that if I was going to survive in television, we had to expand. And I thought, okay, I'm going to add a fishing show to the Avery Outdoor Enterprises umbrella. But I knew that I wasn't the guy to host that show. I would produce it, but I wasn't the guy to host it. And so I'm looking around at my list of people that I know about who could host the show, who could I work with, who would do a good job, and immediately thought of Mark Romanak. I approached Mark and said, do you want to do this? He thought about it for a little bit and said, yeah, let's do it. So we formed a joint show called Fishing 411. We did that together. I was behind the scenes for a couple of years. He was the front man. I did a lot of the editing. And then it was obvious that I was just in the way at that point. So we stepped aside. He bought us out, and then he took the rest of it. But that's a little inside broadcasting there. Joe says, I love hearing the radio show on Spotify. Poor Johnny on the bait pile yards. That had me laughing so hard. Johnny's a great guy, but he cannot tell distance. To Johnny, 35 yards is the same as 100. I don't know if the guy needs glasses or what, but he just can't tell distance. So if you hunt with Johnny and he tells you the bait's 35 yards and you're bow hunting, you better bring your gun. If he tells you the bait's 100 yards, you can bring your bow. But he's a good guy. He's a great bear guide. He's the bear whisperer. He just can't tell distances. Good evening, Mark. How are you? Hello, Brent. Nice to have you along with us, buddy. Boy, you sure made Nick and Lindsay happy with that new puppy. He went to a good home, didn't he? She, I don't know if it's a male or female. Ricky, good evening. How are you? Nice to have you along with us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. And of course, we wrap it all up, the show that is, the radio show, with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. Now, I have a trip. Let me check my calendar here. I've got the Angler Quest tournament this Saturday. And then next Tuesday, I fish with a group of veterans. That'll be a very special trip. And then that following Thursday, I fish with wild game chef Dixie Dave Miner, Art Lewis of WSGW, and Michael Hensley of Go Great Lakes Bay Convention and Visitors Bureau. So that'll be a fun trip too. And that's actually because after that is the Dealer Quest, Angler Quest dealers meeting. At that point, I'm probably about done with my fishing trips. I've worked my way through most of them, not all of them, Ed, I know. And we'll try to do a couple of river cruises, get those in August before the wedding. Do we need to buy Johnny a rangefinder? Johnny has a rangefinder. He just doesn't use it. Johnny says all the baits. Brent says he's adorable. Brent, do you mean the puppy's adorable or Johnny Bowler is adorable? Johnny says all the baits are 70 to 80 yards. They're all 70 to 80. Johnny doesn't put a rangefinder on them. He doesn't pace them off. He just says they're all 70 to 80 yards. Didn't hear about this. Robert says, sad to hear that Lambert's in Gladwin had a fire last night. They did such a great job on butchering deer. I didn't know anything about that. Ricky's birthday is Sunday. Thinking about going out. Good luck to you. Getting Art on the boat is fun. Yeah, Brent says, well, yeah. Dixie Dave's really excited to get out there, too. He hasn't fished in a long, long, long time. It's time for him to get out there. And this is, well, the average, 50 yards and 100 yards, just 70 to 80 yards. Joe, who has met Johnny at one of our Wednesday night lives, I believe, says, can't wait for the opportunity to bear hunt with him. He's a good guy. Great guy. The next Wednesday night live I will be doing outside of my office here at the house will be at the Michigan brand plant. I think we're going to go to the Frankenmuth plant. We did this once about 6 years ago, walking you through the plant and the process of how they make their wild game, their jerky, their hams, their hunter sticks. And we're going to do that here. We don't have a date scheduled, but it'll be sometime in August, I suspect. Good evening, Brad. How are you? Thanks for joining us on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. MichiganBrand.net is the website, MichiganBrand.net. Of course, the Mike Avery Hunter Sticks. Oh, let's see. Oh, I also did a Polar Craft podcast today. Now, in the Polar Craft podcast, I actually had a conversation with Bobby Sullivan. You may know the name of Bobby Sullivan. He's with Icebreaker. He's the man behind Icebreaker Charters. Bobby fishes walleye in the rivers in the spring. He fishes walleye on Saginaw Bay in the summer. He switches over to Lake Michigan Kings in late summer. Then he fishes kings in the rivers on the west side of the state out of his Polar Craft. Then he hunts ducks back on the east side of his Polar Craft. And then over the wintertime, he fishes steelhead out of his Polar Craft on the west side. So he's also, now the reason Bobby came to prominence 2 years ago, one of his clients caught a new state record king salmon. I never dreamed in my lifetime that I would see a new state record king salmon. 47 pounds and change. So in the podcast, we talk about that because it was a life-changing event for Bobby. It changed his business model immediately. We talk about the transition, the mental transition, fishing from walleye over to salmon. And then we talk about fall river techniques. It's a really good conversation. Bobby is a really, really good talker. And he and I always have good conversations. So I've got it edited. I should have that Polar Craft podcast uploaded tomorrow. So keep an ear out for that. Linda says the Michigan brand ham she won was fantastic. The family loved it. They personally delivered it to the house. Such generous service. Bernie says, is your bear meat the brats back home? No, I don't think they've done them yet, Bernie. and it's fine, although I am getting a little anxious. What they do there is they wait until they have enough wild game to process a batch of wild game brought in by customers. So last I heard, mine was sitting in a freezer waiting to go. Doing good tonight, Tyler. How are you? Well, let me look at this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm fishing 3 out of 5 days. Yeah, by then I'm going to be about done. I don't know how these guys do it, Lance. I don't know how you do it. I spend a day in the back of the boat. I can get about 5,000 steps working the boat at the back of the Angler Quest. 5,000 steps just going back and forth from side to side on the Angler Quest. When you add in that sun beating down on you, although I got a bimini to get out of it, rain, wind, waves, it kicks my butt. Kicks my butt. I don't have anything else on my list except for my website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike. I'll tell you why I'm going to start wrapping this up is I got the window open and I don't have the fan on me. And I'm starting to cook here. There's an interesting story there, Craig. And it's worth keeping an eye on. When the Angler Quest dealers meeting comes up here soon, we will be able to talk about more. Martin, do you know if or when Captain John Littlefield will be starting Great Lakes charter training back up? He is. He's bought the company from Captain Mel Stackpool. I don't know if he's going to change the name or what, but right now he's jumping through the hurdles, jumping through the hoops from the Coast Guard that will allow him to become a certified teacher. I don't remember what they call it, but he can teach him and then he can give the tests as well. But John is restarting the charter captain's class in one form or another. Tyler said they're doing pretty well. Just got back from doing a little bank fishing on the Pine. Excellent. All right, Johnny, say hi to the guy at Andy's. Joe, when you record the radio show, is that on the affiliated radio station the same day or just 2 days? We're just when we record the radio show, Joe, we routinely do it Wednesdays. Nobody gets the show until Saturday morning. The show gets uploaded to satellite. The show gets uploaded to an FTP site, which is a file transfer protocol site online. And it doesn't get aired by the affiliate stations. Even WSGW, which is where I record it, doesn't get aired until Saturday morning. Now, I've got 33 stations. Some of them are at Saturday morning, some Sunday morning, some combination of. But it gets a lot of airplay. And like I said, 1 million podcast downloads. Brad's getting some nice bucks on camera. Linda says the Polarcraft podcast, where do we find it? Go to polarcraft.com, polarcraft.com. That's the website for Polarcraft boats. And I might just post a link directly tomorrow too. Hello, Gene. How are you? Ryan's going to be at the Angler Quest tournament out of Linwood Beach Saturday. Make sure you come up and say hi, Ryan. Yeah, I'll be there. I'm fishing in the event, not seriously. I am fishing in the event, but I will be emceeing the weigh-in and the event as well. All I got to do is better than Scott Hand. I don't care if I win or not. I just got to do better than Scott Hand because he tried to throw me a curveball by saying my skinny water, all the weeds had blown out and I should go up in there, which was just a blatant ruse because it's not true. Gene says right now, getting boats built for the dealer boat show. And Gene, I know you can't say anything right now, and I'm asking you not to say anything right now, but I think that dealer meeting will be interesting. Don't you agree? Scott says, tell James to see me at the captain's meeting and I will get him a few crawlers. Go deep or go home. Scott, I'll tell you right now where we're going. we're going to run back across to the east side of the bay. I'm telling you right now, we're going right back across to the east side of the bay. And it ain't going to be deep, and it ain't going to be crawlers. But I'm going to have 3 young guys at the back of the boat, and they're going to be working their tails off fighting weeds. As long as I'm not the one doing it, I'm not worried about it. Okay, so what do I need to do right now? I need to do this thing right. That's what I need to do. All right, my friends, thanks for joining me on this edition of Wednesday Night Live. Yeah, a lot of changes coming. I'm looking forward to seeing them. All right, my friends, my name's Mike Avery. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to call it a night, at least an official night. I may put a little something in here and relax. Once again, my friends, appreciate you joining me. Thanks for all your support. And I'll talk to you next time right here on Wednesday Night Live.